I mean, I remember, because like most of us, and probably not a lot of people know this, but most of us that DJs in the scene, you know, even before we were recognised in the scene, we were doing some kind of DJing anyway. I mean, I'd kind of forgotten that in primary school, in assemblies, we used to, and this is a school called Rushmore in Hackney, in assemblies in junior school, we used to have, there was a record player, and there'd be two lads just sitting like this, you know, and then the headmaster would give the guy the nod, and he'd put the record on. I thought, oh, I want that job. I want that job. And
what year was that?
Oh, I'm going to primary school. Primary school. I mean, it was some kind of it wasn't dance music, obviously, or anything, but I wanted that job of putting the needle on the record, you know, and I ended up getting it. So that was probably my first, you know, entry into the world of DJing there. And like I said, like all of us, I mean, I used to do people's house parties in and around Hackney. If anyone wanted, or any of our mates were having a party, me and my friend Barry G, RIP, we'd be doing the music at these people's parties. But it was in those days where you'd have to lift boxes, you'd have to bring records, you know, you have to bring the whole kind of shooting match, really. But most of us have done that, you know, before anyone had ever heard of, you know, the acid house scene or anything like that. Because I think people just think, oh, you know, the acid house scene was there, and then all of a sudden we decided to become DJs. But most of us were doing music of some sort before that.
Yeah, was you into your soul, your funk, your reggae?
Well, first it was reggae, to be quite honest. And you know, me and Barry G, we had our little soul sound. It was like Rima soul sound, but we'd play reggae as well, and stuff like that. Then I kind of went off the reggae a little bit and went into rare groove, soul, funk, and stuff like that. And stupidly, I gave all my reggae records, right? And I had tons of them. I gave them all to my mate. I just gave them all away. And, you know, that was one of the things that I regretted over the years.
Wow. So you acquired a reggae collection and gave it away.
I know, go on, tune me now.
When you was doing like house parties and doing your music, because Barry G's a name that was on loads of flyers reviewing like 88, 89.
Well, it was Barry that got me onto Sunrise Radio.
Right.
Me and Barry, we would kind of always fall out, kind of like the stuff we was talking about earlier on. But, you know, we were best mates. Barry used to walk me to school when I was a kid. You know, he was always a couple of years older than me. But he would walk me to school as a kid, you know, and my family loved him. And, you know, we grew up, and I remember we'd make double decks out of just one record player, get the front of an amplifier, put it in there, and then, you know, there's no crossfader in those days. So what you had to do is you'd play one record and then switch it over from, say, aux 1 to deck or something, just by pulling the volume down. But we made our own double decks and stuff like that, you know.
Did you used to go record shopping together?
Yeah. And the thing with me and Barry, what we would do is we'd always try and outdo each other with a record, right? So, like, you know, I'd go record shopping, and I always remember one. It was a tune by the OJs, Put Our Heads Together, right? Yeah. And I bought that. It was on an album, and I remember going down to Barry came to my house, and I said, "Listen to this one." And we put it on. And me and him would always have like dancing competitions in my bedroom. You know, one of the kind of mates where it doesn't matter whether you make yourself look stupid in front of or not. And it was like that. And we would just wear ourselves out dancing in my bedroom, you know.
Was you a good dancer?
Not bad. I think I can hold my own for an old...
They called it cut a rug back in the day, didn't they?
I think I can hold my own for an old white guy, I think.
Yeah. Do you ever have a little dance behind the decks? Or would you ever get in and you and the wife have a little dance and you say, look at this, look how I used to dance back in the day?
No, I think she said, you know, every now and then, you know, I don't do it all the time, but every now and then at gigs, you might just find me down the front having a little dance.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Jay Cunning's 50th. Jay Cunning's 50th. Okay. I was DJing, and there you was in front of the decks.
Yeah. Yeah, you know,
Having a dance.
I don't mind a little dance. I really don't.
It's Fred Astaire here. Have a look at this.
I love it.
So you and Barry, because Barry G, I just remember his name on like Dungeons, Labyrinth, so many flyers. His name was like
he's like I say, he was on Sunrise Radio before me, and we'd kind of split up. We'd had some kind of argument. I don't know what it was, but yeah, you know. But then we ended up coming together. By that time, I was already doing not mega parties, but I'd done Rave at the Cave. As you know, we started that off, and then you know other people started asking for me to play at their
everywhere.
dues.
Yeah.
So, but it was only small at the first. Then he got me. He said, "Look, why don't you come on the radio with me?" And we kind of used to do a one set together. You know, so it was 2 hours, and we'd both play it. So it was Barry that got me onto the radio.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you say you was doing house parties around Hackney, like late 70s, early 80s.
That's right, yeah.
What before the acid scene?
Yeah.
I got two questions. What jobs were you doing?
Oh,
what was
blimey,
Royce and Ellis Dee doing? And was you playing any clubs or pubs around the East End, as well as the house parties?
Well, at the house parties was when I was about 15.
Right.
So it was just like people's house parties and stuff like that. So there was no clubs or anything like that. But that was mainly kind of just like reggae, a little bit of dub, all the rare groove kind of stuff and funk, that kind of stuff. But yeah, no clubs at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because around the East End there was a lot of like clubs like Septembers and all that. So remember all them,
right.
Metropolis
I do,
and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think at that point, I wasn't. Oh, I see. You know what it's like. It's so hazy back then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All those years ago. But I do remember Septembers and that there was like posers clubs, weren't they? If I remember right. Yeah. No, I don't even think I went to any of those clubs. Where we used to, when I kind of, after all the house party thing, you know, and it was like, all right, let's go out clubbing. You always used, because everyone had cars then, you know, and we'd rather than stay in London, we would go out and venture out into different clubs outside of London, you know. I remember we used to go to a club in Harlow, and people would go to me, "Oh, where are you going tonight?" We go, "Oh, we're raving in the countryside, man, Harlow."
Harlow's the country.
But in those days, Harlow was quite a long, you know, it was out in the country compared to now. Everything's just got smaller.
Why made you go to Harlow? No one really goes to Harlow, do they?
There used to be a club
what was in Harlow?
There used to be a club there called Whispers in Harlow that used to be pretty good back in the day. And we used to go there for quite a period going there. But yeah, we would go to different all around. I remember we used to go to one in Luton. I think it was called the Pink Elephant or Pink Toothbrush or something like that. But yeah, we would not really normally stay in London. Really,
and,
we'd be
what kind of musics were them places playing?
It was kind of solely funk.
And what was you doing as a job at that time?
Kind of just after I left school, it was what was it? First kind of job was like first I was in doing cars. I just got a job in a gearbox factory, reconditioning gearboxes. Then I went into floor laying, done a bit of floor laying for a while. Then I kind of wasn't around for a little while, and then I kind of got into the motor trade for quite a while. And probably done that for probably what would it have been? Maybe 8-9 years. Then just before the kind of the acid house kind of scene started, I was I started off as a courier working for this firm down in the city, and then all of a sudden they opened up a chauffeur inside. Okay. And they said, "Oh, do you fancy being a chauffeur?" Because I knew my way around London and everywhere like that. So, okay then. So they've given me the full suit and everything, the hat, and,
Right.
and a big like Rover 35. You remember the old big one, the
Yeah.
SDI, one of those with a phone in. But the thing is, they didn't have many customers at first because it was just starting it up. And so I'm supposed to be down like the West End and stuff like that, but I'm back in Hackney smoking weed with my mates, right? All of a sudden the phone goes and they go, Mr. Parker's coming out of Park Lane in 5 minutes. I was like, okay, yeah, shit. Stuck the phone down, dumped my mates and flew back to the West End. Obviously the phone kept ringing. They're going, where are you? I said, oh, the traffic wardens have moved me on and stuff like that. I do remember having my mate in the boot once of the car, right, and taking a customer in, and I thought, please don't come out with any luggage, you know.
You said,
chauffeur.
Right, you said that you was away for a little while.
Yeah. Well, it weren't bad stuff. It was like nicking cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I ended up doing borstal training, which, to be quite, I was one of the last borstal boys, but I loved it. It was the place I went to was a place called Finnemore Wood, which is down in Marlow, which is a beautiful little town. If I don't know if you know it, and it was open. You know, if you don't have any sex offences, no drugs, no violence, then you can go to an open thing. So there wasn't even a lock on the door, but it was absolutely brilliant, you know. And they used to take us to college every day, just drop us off in a normal college, 6 of us, and then pick us up at like 4 or 5 o'clock. And absolutely brilliant, honestly. And I got city and guilds there, come out of there, and I thought, do you know what? I've had enough of that game, and went to this garage in Hackney that I knew employed anyone, and just said, look, I want a job. He said, you won't like it. I said, why not? He said, the wages. I said, what is it? He said, £30 a week. I went, what's the hours? He went, all hours. I went, all right, I'll take it. And that was it. And I got back into the kind of cars again.
What year was that?
That probably would have been about 84 maybe.
Right.
85. Yeah. No, it was early. It was probably earlier than that, because, you know, we started Elephant and Castle in '88. I'd been a kind of courier driver and chauffeur for probably 3 years, something like that. So just be 3 years, but yeah, about 84.
84.
Yeah.
When did you first hear house music? When did you first hear house music?
I think probably something like, what was the Colonel Abraham's tune or something?
No, he had a few different tunes, didn't he, Colonel Abraham's, that people cite as like house. Obviously, Trapped is a big tune, but he had a few tunes like Music Is the Answer and that many people kind of cited as like early house with like with real drum beats and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that was it. But I always remember, and you know, I was fully into soul, funk, rare groove when I remember hearing acid music on the radio, and I thought, what is that fucking shit? Honestly, I honestly, I thought this is a joke. This stuff. I thought this is just rubbish. I thought, who listens to that shit?
Yeah, not for you.
And I knew these printer guys that worked down the city, and they went, oh, listen, you need to come out to this club with us, blah, 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 da, 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 which was Heaven, right? Or, sorry, not Heaven, it was a Sound Shaft then. Yeah. You know, a little bit.
The one at the back of Heaven,
And we went down there, and they gave me something, which I took, and all of a sudden, the music, it just clicked, and I thought, right.
Acid made sense.
That is what it's all about. And I always remember the first record, because we'd done the thing before we went in, and it was, do you remember a DJ called Vicky Edwards?
I know the name, Vicky Edwards.
Vicky Edwards, if you're listening, big up. I think she's out in Australia now. But there was like Vicky Edwards, DJ, I don't know if you remember DJ Louise.
I know all the names,
yeah. And but I always remember walking in, and Vicky Edwards was playing Oochie Coochie.
What Baby Fool.
Yeah, and that bass, boom, 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 and I was just blown away by it, and all of a sudden it all made sense.
It all made sense.
Yeah,
Getting
it was
on
it was no longer shit anymore.
Yeah, getting on a little fella, listening to Hoochie Coochie,
yeah,
and off you was.
Yeah, baptism of fire.
So what, like, before you went Sunrise and before you had that Hoochie Coochie moment,
yeah.
what, like, pirate stations were you listening to?
Oh, it was stuff like LWR, you know, all your Froggies and stuff like that. What was the name of the radio stations? I mean, you obviously had Kiss when it was illegal.
Yeah.
Because there was a few of them, and I think sometimes they just changed the name because it seemed like the same DJs
were changing their names when
were on this new station just to maybe hoodwink the DTI or something. No, that wasn't us. That was someone else. You know.
And what record shops around your area did you go to?
There wasn't many. There was really only Wired for Sound in Hackney.
Yeah, wicked shop.
Yeah. That was Big Up Brian and Susie. Where I don't think there was too many in Hackney, if I remember right. But you know what it was like in those days. You would just go all over the place.
Yeah, of course.
Hunting for what that last record shop didn't have. You know, so you know the rounds, the City Sounds. I'll tell you a story about City Sounds. Black Market, Groove.
I love Groove Records and Music Power. My favourites of all time.
What was the one that was down by Finsbury Park?
Finsbury Park.
Yeah.
Well, you had in Haringey.
What's Stan and Clive? That rings a bell.
Finsbury Park.
Yeah.
Obviously, in Haringey there was Music Power. Finsbury. No, sorry. Finsbury Park. Seven Sisters Body Music.
Right. Yeah. There is that one, but no, this was another one. Do you know where Finsbury Park Tavern is? Right. By you come along, you've got the hotels on the left, and you've got the park on the right.
Yeah.
As you come down to that junction, right there, the traffic lights, there's a big pub on the right-hand side. Just used to be there.
Right.
Yeah, it was a little one just chucked.
And you was getting house and acid and...
Yeah, they weren't like one of the main shops that you would go to, but you know what it's like when you... In those days, when you wanted a
if you found a shop and one that you liked, and you was hunting.
Yeah, you know, or you phoned up J.R. Hartley, do you have the...
Yeah.
And if they had it, you know you're going there to get it, you know.
Wow. Do you know what? I'm pretty geeky with record shops. So you've stumped me there. Right, from popping your first little fella, Hoochie Coochie, how long before you was playing... Did Sunrise come first, or you playing at acid parties first?
Sunrise Radio, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I was playing it because we done Elephant and Castle, didn't we? That was kind of my first introduction as DJing, and I always remember because the way it started, we knew someone that had a railway arch garage over in Elephant and Castle. Our friend worked there, and so we said, ask your boss, can we have a acid party in her garage? And she said, well, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, take me out to one. So we took her out to one, and in those days, you know what it was like, you'd be out, although you went with your mates, you're in the club, you'd be all over the place just chatting to anyone. Then all of a sudden my mates come over, they goes, quick, Roy, come over. I said, what's the matter? And they've gone, well, someone's given Karen an E, right? And it's not taken too well to her. She was underneath this like UV light, and she was kind of like, a bit like that, and she wasn't looking the best, you know. And I thought, that's it, we're done. We're you know, there's no chance. Spoke to her on the Monday, and she said, I loved it. Yeah, let's do it. And so we cleared this garage out, but there was a big lorry in there, right? A flatbed lorry, and it was too heavy to push, so we left it in there. And people just jumped on the back of the lorry, and that was like a feature of it. People would get there early to reserve their space on the lorry to dance.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did that was Rave in the Cave, wasn't it? When did you start that? What was the month?
Probably November '88.
So
it was later part of '88.